Hi, family. My name is
Hola
Marvin.
familia, yo me llamo Marvin. Soy
Compulsive
definitivamente un comedor compulsivo.
weigh and measure
Peso y
3 meals
mido
a
3
day.
alimentos de la
I
GreySheet.
turn them over to my sponsor.
Se los doy a mi
Abstinence is my higher
padrino.
power, the most important
Y
thing
la
in my
abstinencia,
life,
mi
and I
poder
want to keep
superior, lo más importante en mi
moving
vida.
slow.
Y voy a tratar de hablar
Okay,
despacio.
and my abstinent date is
Mi fecha de abstinencia
1992,
es
March
1992,
17th,
el marzo
and
17.
I've been here ever since. And matter of
Y
fact, I'm
aquí he
coming up on
estado.
next month to make 31 years, and I'm
El
truly
próximo mes van a ser 31 años.
So let's go from the beginning, and I
Así que
go
vamos a
through the
empezar.
history
Les voy a
of
dar un
why
poquito
we
de
are
historia.
GreySheeters Anonymous and
¿Por qué
what
somos
happened.
GreySheeters y qué fue lo que sucedió?
I was around
Yo
for at
estaba
least a year and a half, and I
como
said,
un
"Where's
año
the
y
literature?"
medio.
I know that we did certain things with AWOLs, but we was using other people's literature.
Yo decía, ¿dónde están
to
los
do step
pasos?
work, and that was not good enough for me because
Y
I
para
was
mí no era
eligible for a
suficiente.
program when
Yo
I
sabía que
went
un
from
paso,
California back to the East Coast because it couldn't, two addicts could not meet. You know what I'm saying? So I need to say that. I said, where is the literature? Yep.
¿dónde está la
Okay, I said, so,
literatura y dónde están los pasos?
and for a year and a half, and then after a year and a half, I started to ask a lot of questions, and they said, well, GreySheet is a part of Overeaters Anonymous. I said, okay. So what I did was in 1994, I got a group of members on, I can tell you the location, it was 86 in Amsterdam. And we met up, and I said, well, I would like to get an intergroup underneath OA, but I need everybody in the world to agree with me. And so what we did was...
Entonces Marvin tenía 18 meses en la GreySheet y dijo, ¿dónde están los pasos? Y yo quiero saber qué está pasando. Y en 1994 le dijeron, bueno, es que GreySheet es parte de Comedores Compulsivos Anónimos. Y entonces yo dije, bueno, me gustaría hacer un intergrupo solo para los GreySheeteros, pero para hacer eso tenemos todos que estar de acuerdo.
So with these members, I said, I don't need to be the chairperson. I just want to be a part of it. I want to create this survey. I want to bring it to the roundup because most people from different states and parts of the world could say yes if they want an intergroup underneath OA or not. And
entonces dije, no tengo por qué ser el líder ni el manager, pero nada más quiero ser parte de eso. Pero tenemos que estar de acuerdo en que sí queremos un intergrupo dentro de Comedores Compulsivos que nada más sea para la gente que sigue la hoja gris, que sean de GreySheet.
And that might have been 1995.
Y eso fue 1995.
And they said, everybody agreed, they said yes.
Y todo el mundo dijo sí.
I proceeded with a lawyer to send a letter to Overeaters Anonymous in California. They sent me a letter back.
Me reuní con un abogado escribiendo una carta solicitando ser un intergrupo dentro de Comedores Compulsivos en donde pudiéramos seguir la hoja gris y la envié al centro de las oficinas de Comedores Compulsivos en California.
They told me it was against 4-day traditions. They do not endorse or do anything with food plans anymore. And I understood. I went and talked to the lawyer that was doing things pro bono. It was Cheryl from Boston at that particular time. And I said, where do we go from here now?
Y entonces, en Comedores Compulsivos me mandaron una carta de regreso diciendo, esto va en contra de nuestras tradiciones, nosotros no patrocinamos ningún plan de alimentos, ustedes no pueden hacer un intergrupo donde puedan seguir el plan de GreySheeters Anónimos. Entonces, el abogado que estaba trabajando gratis, pro bono para nosotros, que era un abogado de Boston, yo fui con ese abogado y le dije, ¿cómo podemos proceder a partir de aquí? ¿Qué podemos hacer para poder estar juntos, la gente que sigue GreySheet?
Then I went back to the fellowship and said they denied us. We're going to have to basically name the program. And at that point, once I let everyone that was involved know that, they said, Marvin, do what you have to do. And they said, it cannot be doctor terms, but you better name, there can't be another 12-step program that you use. And I said, well, it's a gray sheet. Let's call it GreySheeters Anónimos.
Entonces, yo me regresé con la conciencia del grupo que estábamos siguiendo GreySheet y les dije, es que no nos dieron permiso, no vamos a poder hacer eso. Tenemos que instituirnos como algo separado y diferente y no nos podemos llamar comedores compulsivos anónimos. Entonces yo dije, bueno, pues si seguimos la GreySheet, vamos a llamarnos a nosotros mismos GreySheeters Anónimos.
Then I got it nonprofit status, got it incorporated. Did all the things I need to do legally, but one thing, I did not have copyright for the GreySheet. So I was threatened by Overeaters Anonymous. The first time I ignored them. And then some years while it was going on, we was already established, and I think it might have been, let's just say probably, 2002, somewhere around that area. It might have been further. And at the time, one couple of board members left, and a few of us said, let's purchase the GreySheet.
Entonces, lo que sucedió fue que establecimos una sociedad anónima, una sociedad civil sin afán de lucro, como para que fuera la sede de GreySheeters Anónimos. Esa parte estaba bien, pero no teníamos los derechos legales de la marca de registro de GreySheet. Allí fue cuando Comedores Compulsivos amenazó con demandarme legalmente por usar esa literatura sin el permiso. Lo hicieron 2 veces, en esa época y más o menos por 2002.
At that time, the chairperson of World Service and the vice president of the corporation, Ralph P., went and talked to some of his lawyers. But his lawyers could not get it done. But I had another lawyer, because I don't know where Cheryl was at that time. Her name, she did GreySheet, but she stopped doing GreySheet. She was a corporate lawyer. She said, anything that you want to get done, Mom, I'll do it pro bono. And
entonces ahí fue cuando fue ir consultando y consultando con abogados que nos ayudaran a navegar el problema legal de comedores compulsivos y nosotros. Y fue un conjunto de gente que todos nos ayudó pro bono para poder lidiar con todos los aspectos legales de la hoja gris.
She was able to negotiate a deal with Overeaters Anonymous for $20,000, and we paid them $5,000 a year until
Entonces,
we were done.
Finalmente llegamos a un acuerdo con Comedores Compulsivos Anónimos. Estaban dispuestos a cedernos los derechos de la hoja gris por $20,000 y les pagamos $5,000 al año hasta que terminamos de pagar la deuda.
At that point, we was free from Overeaters Anonymous.
Hasta ese punto fue cuando ya estuvimos completamente libres y separados de Comedores Compulsivos Anónimos.
What happened was that after a while of doing this type of service I did the service for altogether for about 20 years. But between that time, and I need to go back, I had a great idea. And I said, because first of all, the first board was all New Yorkers. And if it's a World Service program, we needed to get other people on board from different states or anybody that wanted to, in the world that wanted to be on this board. And that's what we did. And between that time, but when we was all a New York board, what I did was I said, I'm going to have, before we had an intergroup, I said, we're going to meet up with all the GSRs. It was a mistake that I made, but it was a learning curve. It was about 50 GSRs. It was a face-to-face meeting, and it was so many questions being asked at the same time. And I basically was getting attacked, and they was wondering if I was going to change the GreySheet. And I said, I'm not here to change the GreySheet. I just want to make sure that we don't have renegade meetings all over the world.
Okay, entonces, aquí está, ya tenemos la sociedad civil sin afán de lucro y ya tenemos los derechos legales de GreySheet, ¿verdad? En esa época no estaba la estructura de GreySheet como la conocemos ahora, con intergrupos y zonas geográficas y todo. Entonces cometí el grandísimo error de reunir a 50 GreySheeters en una reunión de negocios de face to presencial, ¿verdad? Donde todo el mundo tenía preguntas y todo el mundo tenía sugerencias y todo el mundo tenía opiniones y todos estaban atacando a Marvin diciéndole, vas a cambiar el GreySheet. Y entonces dijo Marvin, es todo lo contrario, quiero asegurarme de que no tengamos 10,000 facciones de renegados, ¿verdad? De gente que está modificando la GreySheet de una manera y de otra.
Because when we started out and we became a World Service program, we had all New York people on board. The pyramid started at the top because we had nothing on the bottom and we had to build down. And what was my frustration was that when new people came on the board and we changed the board, they wanted to start back at the top and go to the bottom, where I wanted the groups, the most powerful thing in GreySheeters Anonymous, to take care of the service that we need to be serviced. So we had issues of people getting service, and the other thing is that we had other states that thought that they were still a part of OA, and they was not a part of OA.
Y fue toda una época de transición en construir el triángulo invertido como debe ser, porque al principio no había nada más que los de Nueva York. Y los de Nueva York eran la voz cantante de GreySheet. Entonces fue todo un proceso para invitar a la gente de todos los otros estados para construir el triángulo como debe ser. Esto estaba aquí, pero no había nadie en el fondo. No había nadie, el servidor, que coordinara todos los servicios y la estructura. Y mucha gente que estaba acá todavía se declaraba parte de comedores compulsivos. Marvin, I just need to tell you, this is happening to us. This is happening to, y eso es lo que nos está pasando ahora, ¿verdad? Y después de tanto desastre de separarnos del otro con fraternidad, hay gente que dice, yo pertenezco a la comedores compulsivas. Thank you, Marvin.
Thank you. So the numbers of what they want to know, the census of how many GreySheeters that weigh and measure their food, is not really accurate, because we still have people that weigh to measure their food the way we do, that still are part of OA and still make Overeaters Anonymous meetings. So entonces, I don't know if it's ever going to be accurate.
El censo nunca está 100%, o sea, porque hay gente que dice que son GreySheeteros, pesan y miden, pero todavía van a las reuniones de comedores compulsivos. Así que nunca sabremos exactamente quién es GreySheetero y nada más, ¿verdad? Porque hay mucha gente que va y viene, va y viene.
So let's go back. Since we have a World Service Board, we're meeting face to face once a year. It's beautiful. I get to order the food. They say, Marvin, you do a great job. I felt like a chef, even though I wasn't cooking the food, but I knew how to order food for a bunch of people. And then we started thinking, hey, this is not Marvin's program, so we start rotating the board.
Entonces, ahora sí ya todo está precioso, tenemos servicios mundiales. Yo me sentía como el chef de GreySheeters Anónimos, aunque yo sabía que nada más era un cocinero, hasta que la gente empezó a decir, calma, 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 este no es el programa de Marvin, vamos a empezar a rotar servicios.
And it worked out beautifully, believe it or not.
Y funcionó preciosamente.
Then we had phone bridge meetings, but for outreach members, right? And it was someone that actually, Bruce, I don't have his initial, he basically expanded it, and they wanted to do something different. And I said, well, you can't do that. And I said, well, what I can do is go to the board and give a recommendation that we have the phone bridge be a part of GreySheeters Anonymous.
Y después a uno de nuestros miembros se le ocurrió una grandísima y maravillosa idea, ¿verdad? De expandir las juntas de GreySheeters Anónimos a través del teléfono. Y entonces yo le dije, no puedes hacer eso. Lo que sí puedo hacer es ir a los servicios mundiales y hacer la propuesta de que haya reuniones nada más por teléfono, sin que, o sea, ahorita en este momento estamos hablando nada más de reuniones presenciales. Ahora se va a expandir GreySheeters a través del teléfono.
So when you do something like that, you have to look at people that was willing to do the service, that had the time requirement, and So we had a couple phone bridge members on the board. And when it first happened, I thought it was a bad idea.
Pero cuando hay que hacer eso, tenemos que asegurarnos de que haya gente verdaderamente comprometida con GreySheeters que además tenga tiempo de abstinencia, de acuerdo a la GreySheet. Y entonces lo llevamos a servicios mundiales y cuando se propuso, yo dije, qué idea más espantosa, más horrible. Muy mala idea.
I was fooled. So I put some things in action and I couldn't run anything without, it had to be a we thing. And it was the best thing that could ever happen to GreySheeters Anónimos.
Y me equivoqué porque fue lo mejor que le pudo pasar a GreySheeters Anónimos expandirse a través de las reuniones por teléfono.
GreySheet started to grow and expand the meetings and everything else. And
empezó a crecer y a crecer y a crecer. Muchas reuniones en todo el mundo.
The message was being brought out another way. And it was that it was an act of God. And the thing is that I stayed open, even though I didn't have votes and stuff like that, but I had a lot of influence because of the things that I did in the beginning and
Lo
the
que les
things
puedo
that I
decir
was creating.
Que permanecí con la mente abierta, a pesar de que originalmente no me gustó y que yo tenía mucha influencia por todo lo que yo había hecho de servicio al principio, pero mantuve mi mente abierta.
Our first venture was the GreySheet stories. And what it was is there was already GreySheet stories out there that's separate from the shades of gray. And so we didn't have an intergroup yet, but I think England had intergroup and Iceland had an intergroup.
Entonces aquí ya había tres intergrupos, había dos intergrupos emergentes, uno en Islandia y otro en Inglaterra, pero nosotros todavía no teníamos el nuestro.
Yes, that is accurate information. They was already established. I don't know if they wasn't established under GreySheeters Anonymous because it didn't exist, but they had an intergroup, and two of them was on the board, one from Iceland, one from England.
Entonces todavía no eran oficialmente intergrupos porque todavía no existía la estructura oficial de GreySheeters Anónimos, pero ya estaban establecidos.
Once that happened, so we do this book, right? And we had Craig, I don't know his last initial, but some of this stuff is in the history. And there might be a book around with the stories where he put his name and his information in the book. So me and the vice president, Ralph P., sat down with him and say, this has to go to the P.O. box and this has to have GreySheeters Anonymous name on it because it's copyrighted and it's ours. It's not yours, it's not Marvin's, it's not Ralph's, it's ours.
Ahí empezó la implementación de las tradiciones, porque una de las historias de los GreySheeteros que estábamos publicando, uno de los miembros puso su nombre y su información y dijo, no, eso no se puede hacer. Tenemos que poner el nombre de GreySheet y la dirección oficial de GreySheet. Bueno, nosotros tenemos una, viviendoabstinente.org, .info. Tiene que ser la dirección de todos nosotros y el nombre que nos abarque a todos nosotros.
And then I said, we need structure. So Robert's rules have to, on this type of level, we need to use Robert's rules. They agreed. So we use Robert's rules. Also, we created, what is a GSR? What's a GSR responsibility? And, et cetera. All the positions and the groups from the bottom up, we defined them.
Entonces, a estas alturas ya vimos la necesidad de una estructura. Entonces, todo el mundo aceptó que vamos a usar Robert's Rules, que es un método de democracia. Si quieren, después lo estudiamos. Robert's Rules, y dijimos, sí, vamos a usar las Robert's Rules. Entonces, ya tuvimos que definir qué es lo que hace un representante de servicios generales y cómo vamos a estructurarnos como una confraternidad.
We also, at the same time, created a website.
Al mismo tiempo creamos la website.
Right? And I didn't know it was going to work the way it worked, right? And so we had something separate in New York from the roundup. we had the Shades of Grey that was incorporated by individuals. And Gary and I think it was a few other women started that. So we thought it was a good idea to do a book. So we have a book out there, and I think it's still around, of the Shades of Grey book. So they was having issues to get 2 more stories to make the book complete. I called up Gary. I said, we need those 2 stories. He said, you got it, Bob. And we was able to do that book.
Publicamos un libro que no sé si todavía esté en venta, se llamaba Shades of Grey, tonos de gris. Hicimos la página web que yo ni siquiera sabía que iba a funcionar también, pero funcionó muy bien. Y publicamos las historias de los primeros GreySheeteros originales.
So New York, Metro, Intergroup, right? We figured we need an intergroup, you know.
Entonces ese fue el primer intergrupo de Estados Unidos, el intergrupo de Nueva York y los suburbios de Nueva York.
So the same person that put their name in the GreySheet stories was the chairperson at that time, because we was doing so much service. We needed other people that was interested in doing service. So this gentleman was doing some things that was breaking traditions, right? And we had to go down there, and we had to do some hard things. And one of us had to pay the bad cop, one had to play the good cop, and we moved on.
Y como siempre, hay gente que hace muchísimo servicio y algunos de ellos no conocen bien todo el protocolo, entonces estaban rompiendo tradiciones y siempre íbamos de 2 en 2, uno jugando al policía bueno y otro jugando al policía malo, para ir corrigiendo a la gente que hace mucho servicio y va cometiendo errores en el camino.
Norman T. became the chairperson of the intergroup at that particular time.
Entonces tuvimos el primer líder del intergrupo.
As they went along, they wanted to establish some things so they could generate money. And so they wanted to use our 501, what they call C3 or K3 or whatever. They wanted to use that. And they could not use it, so they had to get their own, right? And then they had to come up with some ideas. At that particular time, I was not on the board anymore. And when they had their first conference face-to-face, I didn't want to attend because I didn't want somebody nominate me and then I'm stuck there again, right? So what I did was I worked behind the scenes. And
entonces lo que sucedió es que después había el problema de cómo generar ingresos y había muchas ideas, ¿verdad? Y unas no se podían usar, otras se podían usar. Entonces fue la primera conferencia mundial y yo no fui porque no quería, yo ya no estaba en la mesa de los custodios y yo no quería ir a la conferencia para que me nominaran, y otra vez quedaba yo atrapado en el servicio.
So Lula called me up one day and said, how do we generate money? I said, well, when this other 12-step program, when it was trying to grow, when it was small like ours, what we did was we had speaker jams, we had fundraisers. If you need to know details how to do that, I will assist you. And she followed my suggestion, and New York Metro Intergroup was starting to generate money by doing those things. That's why you see they have the speaker jam. I was the person that was, like I said, was the silent partner. So, you know, and she was like only one of the only people that came to me about certain things when it had to do with service. All the chairpersons after me, for whatever reason, I guess they had their ways they wanted to do it, never called me for information. So this is why we're here today. Also, I need to let everyone know in Mexico City and the Latin world that we have documentation in a storage that will clarify a lot of the things that I'm saying. And it's in Long Island.
Entonces lo que pasó fue que nosotros habíamos construido hasta cierto punto la estructura y las usanzas. Cuando se necesitaba generar dinero para seguir creciendo, organizamos ciertos eventos en Nueva York, Pero después, los siguientes líderes de servicio no consultaron con los veteranos y acabando cometiendo los mismos errores y empezando desde cero y cometiendo los mismos errores. Lo que les quiero decir a México y a todos los países latinoamericanos, toda nuestra experiencia está documentada. Aprovéchense de ella.
So, with a lot of people, like I was saying, like I was a virgin, this is the first GreySheet event outside of New York that I went to, and that was LA, and that was last weekend, right? And the reason why, because I was so busy creating things, right, for the program, and after that, I'm in another 12-step program, and I would go to those things, and I said, there's no sense to me going to those things and going to those things, and I just figured it was just going to be too much. And then somewhere during the COVID, something woke me up and said that I need to be more involved. And what happened was that the Zoom was around before actual COVID, and they had Zoom meetings, but we expanded on that. Besides the phone bridge, another tool that I really didn't have anything to do with it. But what it did was it connected me back to a lot of the people. So Wintrum is my home group. I'm a GSR for there. So I said,
Durante muchísimo tiempo yo hacía cosas no oficialmente, sino por detrás de las bambalinas. Y como pertenecía también a otro grupo de alcohólicos, otro grupo de 12 pasos, no participaba directamente en el servicio. Y hasta recientemente que me volví a involucrar directamente, yo nunca había ido a un evento oficial de GreySheeters Anónimos, nunca, fuera de Nueva York, nunca había habido ningún evento fuera de Nueva York, hasta ahora que fui a Los Ángeles. Se presentó como un virgencito de eventos de GreySheeters Anónimos, fue su primero. Y en la época de COVID dijo, Marvin, ahora sí tienes que regresar a estar más directamente involucrado con GreySheeters Anónimos.
But to let you know, the first World Service meeting, Gavin was at Ralph P's house on Park Avenue. I think it was 65th Street in Park. That was where the first World Service GreySheet meeting was at, just to let you know. So, I might go back and forth, but I got involved as a GSR and last year. And for me, I've started to see what works needs to be done on the bottom. So now we have a meeting first Saturday of the month at 11:30. And first I was being quiet, and now I've been involved, and I have to tell them, I just don't listen. I'm not the chairperson. I'm just a GSR. But people don't look at me as that. They want information, and I guess they wanted information from me a different way, of me being involved with service instead of me disconnecting myself from the service blanket, right? And so now I'm working on with one other member on the website, or the New York Intergroup website, with New York Metro Intergroup website. And we're doing some great work. And also when they conduct their meetings, it's a few of us in there that have done a lot of service. We just, we're not trying to criticize it, but we're trying to do things and do a little better. That's what, so we reaching to be the best, right?
Y entonces ahora
GreySheeters Anonymous.
Durante mucho tiempo yo era un super influencer, ¿verdad? En GreySheeters Anónimos. Ahora nada más soy un representante de servicios generales, pero ya estoy involucrado otra vez. Con otro miembro estamos generando la página web de Nueva York, la página web de GreySheeters Anónimos en Nueva York, y estamos haciendo las cosas un poco diferentes, no para criticar a nadie, sino simplemente porque queremos prestar el mejor servicio posible para GreySheeters Anónimos.
Now, maybe I fibbed a little bit because the men's had their first spiritual retreat for GreySheet. So that's the first event I made with GreySheet men in October. I'm not going
Seguramente podría haber hecho mucho más. No he hecho todo lo que debía haber hecho, porque los hombres solamente han tenido un evento para hombres. Solamente ha habido un solo evento para un retiro para hombres.
I was not going to attend.
No iba a ir.
But my sponsor they want him to speak on Friday.
Pero mi
And he
padrino
doesn't drive.
mi padrino lo invitaron a hacer el orador el viernes y él no maneja.
So I asked my sponsor, do you really want to go?
Así que le
I'll
pregunté al
drive you
padrino,
there.
¿te gustaría ir? ¿De veras tienes muchas ganas de ir? Yo te llevo.
He said he wanted to go, so I called him
Y
back and
dijo,
said,
sí,
listen,
sí
I'll
quiero
take
ir.
him.
Entonces dije, bueno, te llevo.
So they told me that I'm the main speaker for Saturday.
Entonces
I
me
said,
dijeron,
oh boy.
y tú eres el principal orador para el sábado. Yo dije, ay, ay, ay.
So here's a historic event that I was a part of, but really didn't have nothing to do with it, not even help
Otra
put it
vez mi
together.
nombre está involucrado con un evento histórico de GreySheeters Anónimos, pero yo no lo organicé ni tuve nada que hacer con eso.
They had me speak at a real bonfire.
Me hicieron el orador en una fogata, de verdad, una fogata de verdad.
And I shared my truth because it was so spiritual.
Y compartí toda mi historia. Fue una experiencia muy espiritual.
So I just want to let the world know.
Así que quiero que sepa todo el mundo.
Write the gray sheet.
Que no escribí la hoja gris. Yo no escribí la hoja gris.
I purchased the gray sheet.
Yo compré en nombre de los GreySheeteros. En nombre de los GreySheeteros, yo compré la hoja, los derechos de autor de la hoja gris de Comedores Compulsivos Anónimos.
And the time was closing, so I named the GreySheeters Anonymous. So
y cuando llegó el momento de intercambiar el dinero, yo ofrecí el nombre de GreySheeters Anónimos para nosotros.
But I'm on the bottom now. I'm basically the coordinator of the men's spiritual retreat that's going to come up probably in October.
Ahora estoy coordinando el retiro espiritual para hombres que seguramente va a ser en octubre.
So when I learned that doing service on any level, that I have to leave my ego at the door. And
he aprendido que hacer servicio en cualquier nivel, tengo que permanecer sumamente humilde y dejar mi ego en la puerta.
Even though I'm knowledgeable, I want to learn from others, you know, and so
siempre
I
quiero
have
aprender
to be
de
extremely
otros.
humble.
Tengo que permanecer sumamente humilde.
Because I don't know it all.
Porque no sé todo.
This is one. God has gave me a gift to be able to put things together.
Dios me ha dado para poder organizar ciertas cosas y lo puedo hacer afuera.
That's what I do for a living. I put things together and I'm very good at it.
Eso es lo que hago para ganarme la vida. Y soy bueno para ello.
But it would never been possible without the support of the community.
Nunca hubiera sido posible sin el apoyo de la comunidad.
And there was some other things that happened in that whole process.
Hay muchas otras cosas que sucedieron en ese proceso.
We have done, and I'm quite sure it has been taped. Grania done a PowerPoint presentation and the roundup at one time about the service structure of the program.
Estoy seguro de que ustedes ya lo han visto antes, pero Grania ha puesto un PowerPoint, una presentación de PowerPoint de cómo funciona la estructura de GreySheeters Anónimos.
The New York roundup, so let me clarify that. At the New York roundup.
En el retiro, en la convención de Nueva York. We have seen it too, in Spanish.
Okay, yeah. Good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So then you know some of the stuff.
We're learning.
Now so learning some of the stuff. There's a couple of things that's going on because they have taped me. They have interviewed me. Probably, I think it wasn't last year. It was in 21. Me, Gary, and Ralph P. About some of the history of GreySheeters Anonymous. The icon just asked me to try to fill in the gaps, and hopefully, you know, with the documents that we have, we can put all this stuff together before it goes too far away.
Conforme estamos escribiendo la historia de GreySheeters Anónimos, nos han entrevistado a los que organizamos los fundamentos legales de GreySheeters Anónimos, a Gary, a Ralph y a mí. Y antes de que se pierdan en el olvido. Tenemos documentos y tenemos todo para el archivo antes de que se olviden.
One of the other parts as hospitals and institutions. So I went to with the person that was the chairperson of the hospitals institutions, because we did do literature for that. That has to be somewhere. And we went into a couple of hospitals. I went in with the committee, and we said we just would like to do a presentation, not give the GreySheet, but a presentation, a meeting list where people that have eating disorders, bulimic, anorexic could come to. They gave us a real hard time being able to establish that. And after a while, that stuff haven't got lost. I'm just hoping one day we're able to get back there.
Otra cosa que tenemos que hacer y en lo que tenemos que trabajar es restablecer el comité para visitar hospitales e instituciones, para ir a los centros de desórdenes alimenticios, no darles la hoja gris, sino simplemente darles una presentación e informarles dónde nos pueden encontrar. Eso es muy difícil y no lo estamos haciendo ahorita, es algo que también tenemos que hacer.
One of the things, even though where I work for, so I'm a railroad person now, right? And I'm a union person, right? So I'm also a safety person. So I was able, I created this safety day, health day, safety health. And so I was able to have a few GreySheeters come down, not give the GreySheet, but meeting lists and pictures and stuff in Grand Central Terminal, and be able to do that like a whole day, like for 8 hours, saying this is a place where people can go.
Otra manera de que hemos tratado de esparcer el mensaje es que yo soy un ferrocarrilero y en mi unión de ferrocarrileros organizamos un día de una feria de la salud e invité a varios GreySheeteros a que vinieran a dar una junta de información que duró muchas horas. No les dimos la hoja gris, pero simplemente fuimos con fotografías de antes y después y con información de dónde encontrarlos.
So my whole thing is that my purpose and my tool, so I went to any avenue to try to promote GreySheeters Anonymous without, breaking the tradition and exposing us, where people can have a place to go. And I'm trying to think, the media reached out to us and I turned them down.
He dedicado toda mi vida a tratar de establecer un espacio seguro de acuerdo a las tradiciones para que los GreySheeteros podamos seguir nuestro camino y transmitirlo a otros. Algunas veces los medios sociales se han acercado a nosotros y yo les he dicho que no, he declinado la oportunidad.
I'm quite sure that's somewhere in the minutes of what we was doing. I turned them down because they refused to darken our faces, and they had their own little agenda, and they wanted us to say what they want us to say. And I said, that's not what GreySheet is about. I said,
no acepté la invitación porque ellos tenían su propia agenda y su propio interés y porque se rehusaron a oscurecer nuestras imágenes.
And then I just, someone said, Marvin, you make the decision. I said, I'm going to turn them down, because if we have to not tell our truth and they're not going to meet us halfway, how are we going to carry a clear message of what we do?
Y no acepté porque el riesgo de diluir el mensaje era muy grande.
And right now where I'm at with the interview and the stuff, right? Basically, we have literature that we're not using. I'm just hoping for the future that we start purchasing that literature, reading that literature. That's one way to generate money for intergroups. There's another way to generate money for world service if we sell the literature that we live by.
Tenemos mucho que hacer. Uno de los comités que necesitamos apoyar es el comité de literatura. La literatura genera ingresos y mantiene el mensaje claro de GreySheeters Anónimos.
And I want to thank you for an opportunity for me to share some of the history. It's probably more in there, but basically that's how it went. And I didn't think I could sum it up and simplify it in this particular, like almost 43 minutes of what we have done and what's going on now. It expand the service that people do today, but we all need to still get involved, whatever we can do, to make sure that when we're gone, that a compulsive overeater, a bulimic, an anorexic can come to GreySheeters Anonymous and get absent.
Jesús, muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad de compartir la historia, lo que me acuerdo de la historia, y seguramente hay muchas cosas más que se me olvidan, hay muchos huecos en nuestra historia, pero nuestro propósito es hacer accesible la solución de GreySheeters Anónimos a cualquier persona que sufre, incluyendo a las personas que son anoréxicas y bulímicas, que cualquier persona que sufre de comer compulsivamente nos encuentren fácilmente.
This has been and still will be, this moment, a great experience for me, because you're talking about a kid, right, that was born in Harlem Hospital, never thought or knew his purpose. And I end up here. GreySheeters Anonymous, incorporated in nonprofit status, April 7th will make 25 years.
Esto continúa siendo la más grande aventura de mi vida. Y nunca me imaginé que un niño que nació en Harlem pudiera llegar hasta este día. GreySheeters Anónimos se incorporó como una asociación civil sin afán de lucro el 7 de abril. Este 7 de abril del 2023 se van a hacer 25 años de funcionar como una confraternidad independiente de comedores compulsivos anónimos.
There's one thing I forgot out of history.
Una cosa que se me olvidó.
It was we had a Westchester Roundup, one.
Tuvimos una convención en Westchester que fue muy exitosa.
And if anybody ever want to have that information, I just know that I help them, but they basically organize it, and it's a Pam B from out of New Jersey that was living in Westchester at the time and thought it was a good idea to do a Westchester Roundup, and everybody from New York supported it.
Hicimos una convención en Westchester y fue muy exitosa. Yeah.
And that's it, folks.
Y gracias, eso fue todo. Gracias. Thank you so very much, Marvin. Thank you so very much. I guess we have time for 1 minute shares back. I just want to say on behalf of the comunidad hispana, we don't have words to thank you for sticking to your guns, and distinguishing us from OA, and then everything that you have to go through so that we have GreySheeters Anónimos. I also am sure that I speak for our whole community. We hope that you'll come to Mexico City in November and to Madrid in September. September 11 will be in Madrid, in Spain. We would love to have you, as well as Olivier and Anne and Angela and everybody who's here. We know how to party. We do beautiful retreats with tons of good adventures. So we would love to have you, Marvin. Okay,
yep, that'll be good. Set me up some dates and I will attend both because I think I need to be there.
Dice que Marvin viene tanto a México como a Madrid. Muy bien. So we'll have 1 minute shared backs at you. If that's okay with you, Marvin, can you stay for a little longer for 10 more minutes?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't feel obligated.
I would say I can't really explain the unseen. When I first, actually started doing this, I didn't really understand the compact of what I was doing.
Cuando empecé a hacer esto, nunca me imaginé lo que iba a suceder. No hay palabras para explicarlo.
I didn't know that it would change basically
tenía
what we
conciencia
do.
de que iba a cambiar tanto.
I didn't think we would become independent from nothing. You know, so this power, I cannot explain of the unseen.
Yo no tenía la
And
conciencia de que nos íbamos a independizar de otros. Es el poder superior el que nos guió a independizarnos y distinguirnos de la confraternidad de donde veníamos.
for a young man that looks like that he's not approachable only when he smiles and laughs, because I have a serious face, because I take my recovery very serious, but I don't take myself too serious. And to go out with people, because without the other members, this would never be possible. Without the community, without the world, none of this would be possible. But they had faith that I would do the right thing and with others. And where we are today is beautiful. There's some things that's maybe,
Para un hombre como yo, que se ve
great.
como yo y que tiene aspecto de que no es muy amigable, excepto cuando me río. Pero es que yo me tomo la recuperación sumamente seria. Para mí la recuperación es un asunto sumamente serio. Por supuesto, eso no hubiera sucedido sin el grupo, sin el apoyo de la comunidad. Y la comunidad es un fenómeno maravilloso.
And I just say that we all, even in dark times, must go on and keep doing the work that we're doing.
En tiempos de
people
mucha
like us.
dificultad y de adversidad, tenemos que seguir. Aun cuando hacer el servicio es difícil e incómodo, hay que seguir haciendo el servicio.
Thank you for, again,
Gracias
allow me and giving me this
por
opportunity.
permitirme, por darme esta oportunidad.